Well, good morning, everyone, and especially my friend Kyle Helm. It's good to have you back.
It's great to
Kyle,
be back.
yeah. Kyle and I, we met, I think, was it about 3 years ago? And boy, these last several years have been just absolutely amazing. That the year we're in right now, being in Avini over a year, wow, we're in a mature company now, which it actually feels like a 5 or 10 year old company with the novelty of just brand new and hardly anybody knows about it. And yet a lot of people do because the product has actually been around in some form or label for 20 years. Just some really unique things that make this such a special thing. And especially with Kyle Helm, it's going to be even more special because we have our own professional rock and roll drummer leading the way. So kick this off a little bit because I know a lot of people maybe have not heard your story. It's pretty amazing, and how you came to be where you are right now, because you are a really major business leader in what we do, the network marketing profession, and how you came to Avini. So I want to hear the story.
You want to hear the story? I can tell the story. For those of you that don't know me, I am Kyle Helm. I am a 38-year-old psychologically unemployable retired rock and roll drummer. I know that's a mouthful, but yeah, I say psychologically unemployable because truthfully, the only job that I ever had was playing drums. I played drums professionally. I flew all over the world playing drums in rock and roll bands, 38 countries to be exact, about 275 days a year, to give you an idea. My brain doesn't really understand how to be employed. I played drums for a living. I loved it. I gotta say that. What kid doesn't want to grow up to be a rock and roll drummer? But what I haven't told you is I'm married and I have 4 beautiful daughters that I love more than the sun, moon, and the stars. And I hated being away. I hated being away from my children and my wife. And like I said, 275 days a year, I was living on Delta Airlines pretty much, flying all over the place. And I just missed so much. And I got to a point, without getting super in depth, Dave, I don't want to take up too much time. I got to a point where I just said, enough is enough. When the whole touring aspect for me, when I first started and was really making a career out of it, was great because we were an independent entity, one of the bands that I played with, and we could afford to fly everywhere. We flew everywhere. But what happened is after that 2008 economy problem that we had, it caught up to us in about 2010 to the music world. And I will tell you, from '08 to 2010, it was great. Everybody was coming out because I think everybody was sad, so they were coming out to have fun and go to shows. But when it caught up to us, we couldn't afford to fly anymore. And so I was having to fly out and then tour for 2, 3, 4, or 5 weeks at a time and then fly home, rather than multiple times a week. I'd just fly everywhere we needed to go. And that's really what took me out of the industry. I got to this point where I said, I can't be away from my family. I can't be away from my kids anymore. I'm done doing this. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. I want to be a stay-at-home dad. So I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to never leave my kids again, as long as I don't have to get a job. That was kind of how am I going to do this? And I joke with people. I say pretty much my only options at that point in time were to rob a bank or win the lottery. And I wasn't going to rob a bank, and I probably wasn't going to win the lottery. But it's funny how things happen. I remember coming home from this tour, and I had this big moment with my wife letting go of my daughter at the airport, and she came running to me. And that was that turning point. That was that turning point in my life where I said, I will never do this again. Because those 3 weeks that I was on tour, I missed my daughter's first birthday. And this is my youngest daughter at the time. I missed her first birthday and I missed all of her first steps. And that was that moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And I'm driving home from the airport that day, and I get a phone call from my dad. And some of you probably got the same exact phone call from somebody. And he goes, hey, I signed you up in my business. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Dad? And my dad, for those that don't know him, or most of you obviously, he has owned and operated an auto body and paint shop all his life. He's 70 years old today. He's been doing that since he was 15 years old. Auto body and paint. And I'm like, you signed me up in your business. What are you talking about? And he said, I'll explain everything when I come down this weekend. And he sat me down and he made me watch this presentation. A couple days later, he shows me this little tiny DVD player that had this presentation on it. It was slides with a voice over the top, this extremely monotone, extremely boring guy, right, just explaining this business. And it was my first exposure to network marketing. And I just went, oh my gosh, this is it. This is how I get home. This is how I become a stay-at-home dad. And little did I know, here we are, right? Almost 13 years later, next month, Dave. 13 years, October. And I left on tour Monday, and I had to go to Germany for a month. And this is back when Wi-Fi wasn't everywhere. You had to go to places to get the internet, right? And I'm on tour, and we'd go to these little internet cafes and things to communicate with our families back home. And I remember I sent some messages to a couple friends of mine through MySpace. If you guys remember MySpace, it's like the original social media. And I came home from that tour a month later, and I had 2 paychecks, and they totaled $500. And apparently the people that I sent the message to on MySpace signed up in that business, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I remember looking at those checks. They were Bank of America checks, and I drove down to Bank of America, and I cashed those checks. And I went, oh my gosh, it's real. This is real. This is it. Game on. If I can make $500 on tour in Germany from an internet cafe, if I just put my head down and go full time in this thing, then I'm going to do great. I called the manager of the band I was playing for at the time. And which, for those of you that don't know, I used to play drums for Chuck Berry also. So I know some of you guys know who Chuck Berry is, but I actually called the manager and I said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm gonna go build this multi-level marketing business. And they laughed at me because here I am. I know nothing about this business besides what I saw in a presentation, and I understood the concept though. That's, I think, very important for people to understand is how simple network marketing truthfully is. It's a basic middleman concept. Here's a company that has a product or a service, and we can put ourselves in the middle of it, and if we introduce it to people and they consume the product or they get started to make an income, we get paid. And the more people that we introduce it to that consume the product, the more we get paid. And so on and so forth. Just help other people get introduced to the company and the products, and we get paid. And I go, this is genius. Like, everybody can do this. That's about all I knew. That's about all I understood of the industry itself, let alone the company. And I went full time. I literally went full time that day with $500 in my hand. And it was amazing. Dave and I just did amazing things the rest of the time.
And lived happily ever after.
And lived happily ever after. Here we are. But no, guys, I failed. I failed as bad as you could fail. That first year in business, we were 5 house payments behind. We were losing everything we had. We sold our cars to pay our bills. We were living on donation food boxes. We used to buy these food boxes from a place called Western Eagle. They were $25, and it was supposed to feed a family of 4 for a week. And they basically gave you a milk crate full of food. And anyway, really rough times, but we didn't care. Like, we were happy. We were extremely happy. We were together. We were broke as all broke could be, but we were happy and together. And if that's what it meant, if that's what it took, we didn't care. But here's the thing, Dave, is I was extremely coachable. I did everything I was supposed to do. I said everything I was supposed to say. I went to every training I was supposed to be at, driving all over the place to these regionals and super Saturdays that, quite frankly, I didn't have the money for. I remember recycling cans for gas to go to these things that were 300 miles away. And I was on every single call, and I just couldn't make it happen. I couldn't make it work, and I didn't understand why. But what I did have was the determination, right? I would look at these people and I go, if he can do it, I can do it. There's no reason this barefoot water skier from Iowa can do this and I can't do it. It doesn't make sense. The only difference is I'm tattooed head to toe and I'm a rock and roll drummer, right? That's about it. But I was focused, and I kept showing up, and I kept showing up, and I kept showing up until one day I happened to meet one particular person that changed everything for me. Quite frankly, changed my entire life in this industry, my career path, everything. And I think that's a very important thing to talk about. I won't get into who it was or anything like that. That process, that first year, I kept meeting people by showing up, right? It built my belief to a level that I'm going to do this. If he can make $2,000 a month, so can I. If he can make $20,000 a month, so can I. If he can make $100,000 a month, so can I. There's no reason. But I happened to meet this one individual, and without getting into the whole story, we could fast forward a couple months after I met him, and he said, just stop doing what you're doing. Forget everything that you've been taught. He goes, just go tell people why you do this. And I go, what do you mean stop trying to explain all this and all that? Just tell people why I do this? And he goes, yeah, just go tell your story.
Start with a why.
Start with why. And I go, okay. And I thought about it. And we started this new little project that I got invited to, and I don't know why I got invited to it to this day. It was a very special place to be. And we started this new little project, this new little company. And we left this company that I was involved with, that my dad signed me up in, which was a service-based company. And this guy that I met brought me over to a company that was health and wellness with products that you could consume and put in your body. And yet I was brought to the table with other people, 5 other people that were all 6 and 7 figure earners. And yet I was like a 6 or 7 cent earner. Like I couldn't make any money. And yet I was supposed to be part of this team to take this company that had been in business for 7 years, doing 12 million a year. I was supposed to relaunch this deal with these 6 people. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't get it. These guys think I'm some big wig and I can't build my way out of a wet paper bag. Yet, like, I'm going to go launch this thing with these guys. And that's that moment when he explained to me, just start sharing your story. Tell people why you're here. And I'm not making income claims. Maybe I can, because it's a long, long, long time ago. That first month, guys, I changed my life. I went out, started telling people why I was doing this, I stopped explaining the compensation plan and all this other nonsense that I really wasn't qualified to do anyway. And I made $21,000 that month. And so I went from making nothing to $21,000, and I never looked back. And when I say I never looked back, it changed my whole frame of what we do out there. And I went out there and started sharing why I do this, because I think why I do this is so much more important than what I do. And the thing is that relates to people. Everybody, we go out there and we talk about our products and we talk about maybe compensation or whatever the case is, but ultimately we get to the root of why we're doing this, right? And that's usually what brings people in, is when we get to that root of why. And I started just teaching people, if we can make this as simple as possible, we have the ability to go out and create a movement. That's the thing. So many people overcomplicate what we do. And so I just started sharing and teaching people how to share their story. I just said, forget all the rest of the stuff. And anyway, guys, speeding up through the story here, we went to one company and then we went to a couple other companies. And unfortunately, it's not something that I am proud of saying that we went from one company and we went to another. But every company that we did, we became successful and hit the top and did all this stuff and built the teams. But we were leaving these companies not by choice. And I think that's really important to understand, right?
They left us. We didn't leave them.
Exactly, Dave. It's true. They left us. I remember, guys, this is oh my gosh. I thought I was on top of the world, right? I was what's called the master distributor at this little dude, the main dude for this company, right? This little company out of Texas. And I thought they were the coolest thing in the world. They had no idea what they wanted to be when they grew up, right? They had products that did not make sense that were together, but it was just so cool. And we built this phenomenal team. Here's this company that had been around. They were around about 5 years when I came into this place. And they had no idea what the heck to do. And we literally turned that company upside down. 25,000 people joined us in less than a year, which was crazy, right? Like a lot of speed, and a lot of people came on board. And then here's where it gets fun. I'm at Disney World, right? And I'll never forget this. This was June 1st, 2015. And I'm like, let's see how we close the month. Because previous night we were at dinner, family, and all this stuff. So the first, I log in, I go to log into my back office just to see how everything finished up. And I type in my website and I type in my information, go to log in, and it says, welcome to Youngevity. And I'm like, Youngevity? That's not my company. What just happened? I logged into my back office. Who is Youngevity? And again, they left us. This is a great example. We do this great thing, and we turn this company around, and we're on fire, and we're having fun, and then they just sell the company. And the reason I tell you this is because over and over and over, it was situations like that where the owners would sell the company, or they would change the compensation plan and hurt thousands of people from the decision that they made, or they would change product ingredients and no longer did they have products that worked or did anything. Whatever was about the bottom dollar. It just became this big cycle of greed and ego of ownership and corporate teams letting us down, leaving us, Dave. And it was such a disappointment. And I will tell you that if there was ever anybody in this industry that is the poster child of should never do network marketing anymore because you've had every bad experience happen to you, that's me, right? Some of these situations, am I crazy that I just keep going back? But I'm a lifer, and I say I'm a lifer with pride because of what I've been able to do and help people do and accomplish over these years. It's you can't stop that. When you help somebody to a point, even if it's something as small as I was able to pay off my first credit card, or hey, we actually were able to have a great Christmas this year, or yeah, whatever it is. I don't even know. If I put food on the table, it's, my gosh, that's why I do this. That's why I do this. And I just keep going. I keep going back for more. And I will tell you, Dave, we're going to catch the story up here to this current point in time where we met. And I was at a point where I was like, I'm going to take some time off. Like, I need a break. We went through a crazy scenario with another company that once again was going out of business for no apparent reason, besides the ownership did some stupid things. And I was doing nothing. And I got a message one day, and this person it was the guy that I was talking about in the beginning of my story that said, just start sharing your story, tell people why you're here. And he messaged me. I hadn't talked to him in probably 2 years. And he said, I did it. And I said, you did what? He said, I created our company. And I was like, really? Cool. Good job. Good luck. Have fun. I wasn't going to do anything. And he started talking to me about this company that he created, and wanted me to come and be a part of it and really help him and turn up the heat, if you will. And I said, all right, let me come hang out with you for a little bit, because there's a reason I haven't been around you for a couple of years, but where are you at? And he told me where he is. And I flew out there and I spent a week with him. And I called my wife and I said, I don't know. He's a different person. Something happened to this guy. Like, he is a completely different person. And I said, his company, he's doing amazing things. He's got the right vision. He's the right attitude. Everything is right. And I go, I don't want to do this, but I want to do this. I don't know what to do. And that was the beginning of the next 3 years of my life that were quite frankly incredible until the end. And some really cool things happened there. And I will tell you this, we started building this little company, and Neil, as you guys know who Neil Roth is, a special guy here, he called me one morning, and I happened to be at this company's corporate office, and he goes, do you think they'd be interested in Rick Deitch's product? And I go, I don't know. And I'm in their corporate office because this particular company had a detox, right? Chasing after Rick's product, even though it wasn't Rick's product. They had another version of it, one of the competitive versions that's not near as good. And I leaned over and I yelled, I said, hey, you think you'd be interested in Rick Deitch's product? And they go, hold on. And within an hour, they're on a Zoom, the owner of this company and Rick and Neil. And Monday, Rick flies in. And a month later, which was March 14th of 2020, we launched Rick's product, right? The detox, and everything was great. And then all of a sudden, Dave, here you come, and you're having a good time building this incredible company. And then once again,
it was like a business Camelot. It was just wonderful. The culture, the people, amazing product. That's where I met you, where I met Neil, reacquainted with him again. And it was just so beautiful. And my personal experience, I've known a lot of people that wanted to have a home business, but they were struggling. They never made any income. All of a sudden, we're in this business where miracles are happening with these powerful products, and people could actually successfully build a business consistently. And it was just a beautiful thing. It was wonderful.
Until that's it. We're on top of the world, and we go, finally. And I had my reservations, of course, like I even said going into it. That's why I went and spent a week with him before I even considered like joining the company. And because there were some issues that had happened in the past. Everybody deserves to be forgiven and a second chance, in my opinion. And we won't get into the root of all that kind of stuff. Everything was great until we all got sideswiped, right? We all had all of us that were building the business all of a sudden got caught out of the left field with something that we never imagined, and the FBI's knocking on his door, and no longer is our company rocking and rolling, or we having fun anymore. It's not fun when all of a sudden the attention is away from the great things that you're doing and helping people change their lives and putting great product in their bodies and financially changing people. When the focus goes from that to you guys are going to get shut down because the owner had a really bad past that caught up to him. And here we are once again going, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
And about that time, everyone is begging, Neil, you're smart. We got our own manufacturing. Why don't you start your own company?
That's right. And that's a very special point. I think everybody on this call knows the story from that point forward, where everything came to be. It was just a perfect storm. You have Neil and his background, and you have Rick, and you have those two as a partner anyway. And then you have all of us going, why don't we just do our own thing? Like, there's nobody to blame but ourselves. We can do this. We can do this.
But of course, they said it's a lot easier to be a vendor than it is to be an owner. And so we had to try one more time.
We had to try. You're right. We had to try one more time, and we did. We took a little journey to try one more time to just put the product in another company that once again we were let down. There's no other way to say it, Dave. And there's no other way. And for me, I'll tell you guys this, and we'll get to the next point of this, where at the time that Avini was being created, I remember there was a lot of meetings happening, and we were doing a lot of just ideas and things with the compensation plan and just all of the stuff happening. But I was at a point where after several months, I'm like, okay, I need to make an income. I know we're 6 to 9 months away from launching this idea, which became Avini, right? Like, I've got to do something. So I started building a team with this little small company, and more or less, and everybody knew it. And I went in with a very just honest, transparent conversation of like, this is temporary to everybody. Like, this is temporary. This is not somewhere we're going to plant our flag for life. This is more or less a holding pattern until our things are ready. And Avini came a lot faster than I planned. And I'm like full force building in something else, another company. And we're launching in 2 weeks. I'm like, whoa, that's probably not going to work for me at the moment. 2 weeks is 2 weeks. And that was literally the conversation. It was the middle of April when Neil called and said, hey, we're going to do this in 2 weeks. I'm like, oh boy. And so I sat on the sidelines. And as much as it pains me to say that, I had to sit it out. The initial launch, the initial start of Avini, I sat on the sidelines, but obviously knowing that one day I would be here regardless. And I didn't know if that was going to be in 2 months or 2 years or 6 months or a year. I had no idea, but it was a matter of time. And I like to say it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. When was I going to be coming in? Because this is, for the last 13 years, Neil, or 12 of my 13 years in network marketing, the last 12 years, Neil has been part of that. And Neil and I, and Claire, of course, and my wife, Taryn, we've become family. I'll never forget that moment that Neil and I met, and then Claire, but that day,
tell us about that, because I think that's a fun story. So.
I will, and I can't believe I actually forgot to tell that earlier. I never imagined that day would have changed my life forever. But so here we are. I'm 11 months into building a team, right? This is August 31st of 2012, and I'll never forget that day because it was the day that some of us had been there. Not everybody. Some of you are brand new, so you're just learning how to build. But when you know you're about to hit a rank, it's gonna happen no matter what. It's just a good feeling, right? It's just a really good feeling, and you're on top of the world, and it's moments away. And August 31st, 2012, I was about to hit the very tippity top rank in this company. I was going to be the second person ever to do this in this company. And I am like on cloud nine. And I say cloud nine. So I'm out in Las Vegas and I'm getting ready to do this big home party. And I couldn't be more excited to do this home party because I know what's about to happen. And we go to this house, and I don't even remember. It was a nice, beautiful home. And there were probably, I don't know, I would guess maybe 50 people in this house. And I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my presentation in front of the room. And this is where I love to be. I love to do home parties. That's my thing. That's my favorite way to build this business. So I'm running around doing all my thing and talking to people. And here comes this couple. This man and his wife come walking in late. I got to say this, late. It's probably the one and only time I ever get to say that about Neil. And this man and his wife come in, which is Neil and Claire, and they stand in the back of the room, like all the way in the back. And they intimidated me to a point that I couldn't even look at them. And they're standing there, and Claire's sitting there like this with her arms crossed, and Neil's just blank face. And I'm doing my presentation, making my eye contact, doing my thing, and then I'd skip over them. I'd go to the next, I'd just skip over them. For the next 30 minutes, I couldn't even look at them because they were scowling at me. And so I finished the presentation and everything's good, and people are coming up and talking and asking questions. And again, I'm on top of the world, right? I know what's about to happen any minute. And I see them coming. I go, oh boy, here they go. Here it comes. And Claire walks up and she looks me right. And Claire's a person that will get right here. She will get right to you, right? And she's right in front of me and she goes, that was the best presentation I've ever seen. And I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And then Neil chimes in, and that was the day I met Neil and Claire. And I'll tell you what, they hopped on board that day, and that developed a relationship that, again, it is truthfully family to me. We've been on vacations together, and just we've become family. It's become so much bigger than just a business relationship, and they are very special to me. And so that was the moment that I met them. And of course, that night I hit that rank, which was really exciting and a lot of fun. And for the next couple of years, I think I drove out to Neil and Claire's house once a week to do a presentation. Like I went out there like every Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember what day it was, but every week I would drive out to their place. I lived about 3 hours or so away from them. And we've always been in business together ever since. Anything that I have done, we have done together to some extent. They were involved and what have you. And so when Avini came around and the idea, you think about Neil's background and you think about where he comes from in his mind. And I personally, just to see Neil in the role that he's in today, it's gosh, that's Neil, that he knows how to do this better than anybody I've ever seen. And to take his mind of how to run and operate and create and build companies, and then you just put it in network marketing, and it's like a perfect storm. The guy knows how to build a business. He knows how to run a company. And it's no surprise, Dave, one of the first comments that you made today was, here we are a year old. You think we're this well-established. We're well-established now. I forgot your exact words. And it's mind-blowing that here we are a little over a year in, and yet we look like a company that's been in business for 20 years. In my opinion, I really feel like we look and feel, and we are operating as like a company that's been in business forever. We're not what most network marketing companies are after a year. Most network marketing companies in a year are still trying to figure out how to pay the light bill, let alone keep the doors open and keep operating. And yet here we are thriving. And we're thriving because of the back end, in my opinion. Of course, the products are what keep us rocking and rolling. But having somebody like Neil in charge that knows how to make the decisions that are right for the distributor base, I am obviously right for the company to stay healthy and continue to thrive. That's super important. I think it's just as important as the work that we do. If not, it's more important. And knowing the safety and security of who's in charge and who's making the decisions for us, knowing those scenarios that we've been part of, Dave, you and myself and other people on this call with us, knowing those won't exist because of Neil. Like Neil's been through all of that with us. And it's a feeling that, quite frankly, I can't even put into words. To know that this is home, to know that here we are for years and years and years and years to come, it's a feeling I've never had. In 13 years of doing this, I've never felt this way. I've never just known that this is where we were supposed to be. You get it in so many areas of life. It's like my wife. The night I met my wife, I knew that I would be with my wife, that she was my wife forever. And here we are almost 20 years later. When it comes to Avini, I just know. So anyway, so there's that story, Dave.
Oh, I appreciate it. I'm just looking back. It was about 5 years ago I was introduced to the product, and so I've used it under 4 different labels, which is weird, but oh my goodness, what's going on right now? I reflect on what you're talking about, and I've heard this couplet that we both lived, that the opportunity of a lifetime is only as good as the lifetime of the opportunity. And so that's, wow, we've really got something special here. Every time we're bringing new people in, it's almost like a family reunion, because a lot of these relationships run very deep and very long. And it just, wow, coming together with a love for what these products do, a lot of that. And then just being very comfortable with people that they already know how to do this. I remember after getting to know Neil, where he would actually offer that original company, let me come and help you. I can help this. I can do this. But anyway, it all worked for a purpose. It created all of this inspirational dissatisfaction, where right at first they says, because I know both of them, Rick and they knew it'd be a lot easier to let somebody else do that, but wasn't anyone up to the task. And so finally, but now that they're here, don't they just look younger and have shining eyes and they're excited?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. They do.
Yeah, when you got something really wonderful to do, it really does put wind beneath your wings. You're famous for this system, and I think that's the big difference between just having a business where you're selling a few products, where you're building an empire, is emphasizing a system. And you've talked about become a silver factory. Could you talk just a little bit about that and some of the things that we've got, the idea of find 3 people, and if you do that, you'll get your money back. And And just a few things as far as mechanics, if you would.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'd be happy to, because I think it's important. I think anybody that maybe initially, not anybody, not everybody, but some people that get started initially with Avini, but does become a product, it's a product focused, driven reason to get started and consume them. But then it can quickly transform to, I would like to build a business. It's a problem I have right now. I get customers and they go, I want to build a business. I'm like, no, stay a customer. But no, it's a good thing. But guys, we all have a tendency to overcomplicate things. And we do with everything in life, right? We have a tendency to overcomplicate things. Sometimes we can't just grasp the fact it can be that simple. And one of the things early on that I figured out in network marketing is I was great at making something super complicated very simple. And I started, I'm a numbers guy. I see numbers different. I think in numbers. It's really weird, and maybe it's because of my drumming background. Truthfully, it might be. I'm always counting and I remember looking at a compensation plan, and remember I told you that first month. And I'm going to tell this in a story if you don't mind, Dave. Mm-hmm. I remember that first month when I was starting that new thing, transitioning from a service-based company to a health-based company, that I made $21,000. We had this goal. Right, we have this goal. The owner of this company said, "I need you guys to do 100,000 in volume by September 1st, or by October 1st, excuse me." And this was September 15th, 2011. I'm like, 2 weeks to do 100,000 in volume, and we haven't even started yet. Like, this is crazy. But it was ranks, and I remember looking at this, and I go, "This? How do we do this? It's overwhelming." But then I figured it out. I remember that old statement that we've all heard a million times: how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I go, okay, if we need 100,000 in volume, that means one person at this rank is 100,000 in volume. I could get 5 people at this rank, which those 5 would make that person. And I just started looking at like the basics of it. And I go, wait a minute. The comp plan is going to drive the behavior of the distributor. The comp plans drive behavior. So what is the behavior I want people to do? And I figured it out in that comp plan. There's one thing. I go, if I can just help people to make their money back, that drives the behavior that creates this rank, which ultimately creates more of these ranks, which creates this rank, which creates 100,000 in volume. So I started teaching people how to do that one thing that made their money back. And it was a simple system. And end of the story here is that 2 weeks later, October 1st, we did 115,000 in volume. We did it. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And I tell the story about hitting the top rank in that company, the day I met Neil and Claire. And most people don't believe, not most, people have it, they find it hard to believe I hit that rank with only having 15 personally sponsored people in that company. 15 personally, that means I had only brought in 15 people, and I had a team of 7,500 people at that point, and I hit the very top rank, and people go, that's impossible. To hit that rank, you should have 30, 40, 100 people signed up. And I go, no, because if I can help people do one thing and I can create duplication, I don't need 1 million people. If I can just help a few. And so that's really where my system brain started with compensation plans. I just look at a comp plan and I go, okay, there's one thing that we can do that drives all the behavior. So when it comes to talk about making a silver factory and things like that, of course, when we look at Avini's compensation plan and the things that we put in place, there's so many amazing aspects of it. But again, we can overcomplicate it. We can look at it and we can go, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to hit those numbers? Because the way that the compensation plan works, guys, is volume creates your rank and your rank creates your pay, right? Your volume creates your rank guarantees your pay as long as you're qualified at that rank. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's like a salary, right? If I'm a silver and I get a little more volume, then I rank up and I become a silver executive, my salary just increased. And as long as I stay a silver executive, my salary stays there. And then all of a sudden, I get a little more sales, right? A little more volume coming in. Things are growing. And then I become, we'll just say Ruby. I don't know. We can just start jumping through these ranks. And you start looking at them and you go, the volume creates the rank, and the rank guarantees my pay as long as I remain that rank. And it's mind-blowing. But how do we make it through there? Guys, there's a little secret. There's two things to this that I want you to think about when you build your business is the entire compensation plan. Every single rank is divisible by 500. Every rank is divisible by 500. And there's a reason for that. And silver, what's the volume there, Dave?
500.
500.
Yeah.
So if we can help people just become silvers and become a silver making factory, right? Think about that. If we just help people achieve that first rank, and obviously we want them to go further, but the duplication can be that simple of helping people become silver. Because if I create a silver, that's 500 volume, and you create multiple silvers, all of a sudden 3 silvers equals 10 silvers equals things like that. You can start breaking it down and say, well, I need 25,000 in volume and get to this. If I just help a bunch of people hit silver, and you start to look at the basics of that, it's super, super simple. Now, where I take it even further, guys, because I think rank is one thing, but the duplication, that immediate goal needs to be super simple. So the behavior that I talk about, and I had a conversation with Neil and Doug a couple months ago, and I just said, guys, I think one of the things that we really need to focus on is how do people make their money back? And I said, how do people make their money back? Neil, Doug, and they start going off on all these tangents. If somebody got started with this pack and they sign up 2 of these and 3 of these, and I'm like, okay, we already messed up. We got to fix this. We got to fix this. And well, what do you mean? I said, it needs to be one simple task, one simple thing that can duplicate over and over and over and over, that no matter who you are, no matter what you got started with, you can make your money back. And they go, like what? And Neil doesn't want to hear about anything that's going to cost more money. And I don't blame him. Right? I said, but Neil, we got to make it where somebody can get started. Doesn't matter what pack. And if they get 3 people to do the same thing, they're guaranteed to make their money back. I go, yeah, I don't know if we can do that. And we ended up, that conversation ended, and about an hour later, he calls me back and he goes, okay, we can do it. And I started laughing. And it got me excited though, because Dave, really what we were able to do is we have the ability now that if somebody gets started with an activation pack at $299 or an activation pack at $799, if they get 3 people to do the exact same thing, then they're guaranteed to make their money back. So we have this promotional enrollment bonus now that the numbers have been changed a little bit, just enough to where, hey, if Sally gets started on a $299 activation pack and I can help Sally get 3 of her friends to do the same thing this week, by tonight, then next Friday, she made her money back. And we can do that no matter where somebody gets started, no matter how big their pack was or small, it doesn't matter. And guys, I'm telling you right now that if you start focusing on that one thing and you just teach and duplicate the one simple step of helping people make their money back, your team starts to grow. Dave, like you said at the beginning of this call, it's like network marketing. A couple people show up, then everyone starts showing up. And that's what'll happen. We will be able to take this from addition to multiplication. And guys, it's one of the most beautiful things that you've ever seen in your entire life when your business goes from addition to multiplication. And not many people can truthfully say that they've experienced that. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people have built incredible teams, and you have some teams that you might have 1,000 people on your team. But when you can have 1,000 people on your team and wake up the next day or 2 days later and your team is now 2,500 people, you went from addition to multiplication. You'll see things start to happen. 2 will become 4, 4 becomes 10, 10 becomes 50. Right? And I know these numbers, you guys are like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It does when addition becomes multiplication. Things just start multiplying in a way you don't even understand, but it's usually and almost always caused when people have one simple thing that they're doing. So if we can literally teach people how to just get started and make their money back as fast as possible, right? By getting 3 people, 3, 6, 9, all of a sudden, you're going to start having these incremental jumps in your business. And the cool thing is as long as we're teaching that, nobody's going to be left on an island. That's where we as leaders need to be communicating with our people. We can't just let people figure it out. So if we're in communication with them and we're teaching them how to do this and we're helping that process, then all of a sudden we're developing the next leader, because he's going to start or she's going to start doing the exact same thing, teaching that exact process, calling their people, saying, hey, let's make you your money back. We can do this. You know what? We've got 12 hours left. We can do this. And then they're making those phone calls and they're in the trenches teaching people how to do that one simple thing. All of a sudden it gets to a point where you go, oh my gosh, look at what's happening. Addition's becoming multiplication. Our team is getting bigger. And ultimately, guys, I know this sounds like a lot of business focus and money and stuff, but the real thing that's happening here is people getting on our product, right? That's why we're doing this. We're trying to get people healthy, both physically and financially. And the larger it gets, the bigger our reach gets, which means the more people that are getting, quite frankly, saved. That's the best way to put it, is we're saving people's lives. We have to, and it happens to be my favorite saying that ever came out in the email last week, is we have to prioritize prevention. And that's what we're doing, guys. We need to shift into that preventative care type mode with people. And the more people we can get out there, the less problems the human race is going to have, because we're putting this product in people's hands. So how do we do that? Simply, we teach people to make their money back and create a business that duplicates. Become a silver making factory, like we were talking about. Silvers will happen inevitably by helping people get their money back. If you just start doing that process, you're going to create that rank of silver. And then all of a sudden you can start looking at your compensation plan in a way of going, okay, 2 more silvers, and I'm going to be able to help John hit gold executive. Oh my gosh, 3 more silvers. And now we can play that path as far as we want to. But hopefully you get the idea there, because that's really what it's about, guys, is just make it simple. Just keep it simple.
I love it. And like you say, most people haven't tasted it, but once you do, oh my goodness, there's no better feeling. And
no.
I think when you first get in, you think, wow, I sponsored somebody, I did that. And a lot of times I'll joke with people and I'll say, wow, there was a moment in time where my business doubled in one day. I sponsored my first person, 1 to 2.
That's it.
But the next step, though, is sponsoring a couple of more. And if you can do it once, you can do it again. And right at first, I tell people, wow, I'm looking and it looks like I'm doing all the work. That's because I was. But then all of a sudden, that magic thing happens when your people sponsor people. And now you're getting it figured out, especially when those people start doing it. And then you just have this runaway chain reaction. And it is the neatest feeling. And one of the things that's always stuck in my mind, I met a lady who was really big in Exxon, so you know how she thinks. But she said, just imagine you're a farmer and they discovered oil on your land and they just installed this oil well. And there it is, going up there and just running. And you look out there right before you go to bed thinking, oh my goodness, all night while I'm sleeping, I'm making money. But in this business, it's like you wake up to look at your oil well, and all of a sudden there's several of them out there overnight. That first one had babies.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And all of a sudden you got lots of that, and all of them are continuing, and it just multiplies. And oh my goodness, to have an idea that multiplies, it's just, especially being in a growth environment where Avini is so new, and yet it's a certainty because this product has already shown itself many times. All we have to do is multiply it on out. And
that's right.
Oh my goodness. And like you say, everybody needs this product. A lot of times we'll help people. It certainly transformed my life. I got a reprieve from a health challenge. And every day I'm thankful for that. But boy, the best way to treat a problem is never get it in the first place. May you never know what you're preventing. Wow, that with this.
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more, Dave.
I think we ought to go share this with people and become silver factories.
I think you are absolutely right. You know what? I just looked at my clock and I go, you know what? Hey, this is pretty good. We got a full day ahead of us. And for those of you that are or have been around, you know what today means. So let's go out and finish the week strong. So
one thought. Okay, fundamentals. One of them is getting people to big events. Could you just say something about what's coming up?
Yeah, we have a very big event next month, Dave. As next month, which is crazy, everybody. If you haven't got your tickets, please get your tickets. I can promise you that this event is maybe I know a few things that are going to happen at the event. It's going to be absolutely monumental for not only the company, but for you that are there. For those of you that don't show up, it's still going to be a monumental moment, but you got to be there because you know what? Events change lives. And quite frankly, the magic that happens at events, you can never recreate it. I don't really know. And sometimes it's not the event itself that changes your business. Sometimes it's the conversation that you had in the hallway with Dave Johnson for 30 seconds that changed your entire path of your business. But coming together and seeing the new things that are happening and hearing where the company's at. And I'm telling you guys right now that you have to be at events. It is the most important piece of your business. It's where you will build your belief. It's where you will meet people that will change your life. Quite frankly, guys, if I wasn't coachable in the beginning and went to all these events, I wouldn't be here today. And quite frankly, Dave, That's a whole other story I'll have to tell someday. But there was a national convention in Orlando that I was told to go to, but I didn't have $5. But some way, somehow, I ended up at that national convention in Orlando, and that is where I met the person that I told you that, quite frankly, changed my life forever. That taught me how to go build this business. But I wasn't going to go. I had no ability to even get there. But I figured it out and I made it happen. And guys, we have a contest happening right now to help you get there, to put a little extra paper in your wallet to help you afford to get to our summit next month and in Dallas. If you don't know about it, you should by now at this point in time. But at the end of the day, what I'm really trying to say, guys, is do everything you can to get there, because I can promise you that the events are probably one of the most important pieces, if not the most important piece of your business. Again, what the company's doing, the things that are going to happen, I'm telling you guys, it will be a monumental shift in the company, let alone your business. For those of you that are there, it's going to be really good. So get your tickets, because I promise you at the end of this month, they're going to get more. The cost is going up. So you want to make sure that you get your ticket
this month. Yeah. One of my favorite statements is leadership is the enthusiastic communication of your vision. And that's what leaders do, is they communicate, they have a vision. That's where you get the vision, these big events, and you come home and you're transformed, and you'll share that excitement with other people, but you got to go there and get a lit on fire yourself. Another thought I've heard is that not everybody goes to a big event is going to make 10,000 a month, but all the people that are 10,000 a month earners go to big events.
That's right.
I think that's just a critical thing. And then another thing, I always like to just tell people, just a heads up, that if you go, I can promise you that you'll be glad you went. But also, you're going to be thinking, oh my goodness, I'm glad I came, but gee, I wish I would have tried a little harder to bring a few other people. And so just with that thought in mind, go for sure yourself, but do all you can to get a few people there. And so you're not just a consumer when you go there. You'll look around and see several people and they're all excited, and you will be glad you did, and you'll have so much to jump into the next one. So
I agree.
Serious. Yeah. Kyle, thank you. Glad you're all the way in now.
My pleasure for being here, and you know what? I'm glad too. I'm super, super glad. So let's go do this. Let's go change the world.
Okay, September is going to be the best month ever so far. So
do it. I'm excited for it.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Love you.